RT's Alexei Yaroshevsky reporting for us there. Sticking with this story, global noise is making itself heard as protests gain international momentum. Let's now talk to activist Caleb Maupin from the International Action Center in New York. Now, Caleb, thanks for being with us, first of all. You are in New York, where protests are expected, along with many other cities across the United States. How big do you think this is going to get?
Well, I was just up at the corner of 8th and 59th Street here in New York City, and there was a crowd of several hundred that had gathered. At the moment, it was taking the form of a teach-in and kind of an educational kind of thing. But there are, from what I understand, plans for marches and more militant demonstrations later this evening.
Now, if you look back through the past year, a year ago, Occupy Wall Street spread across the world. Now it's global noise. What is global noise all about, and how is it different?
Well, basically, global noise is saying we're not going to be silent. Because right now the banks are coming for us, and they're cutting all of the programs. You know, there's mass unemployment, there's cutting in government spending, and the governments of the world are just having to pay back the banks. And in the process, our futures are being destroyed. Our educations, it's impossible to get an education in this country without rising debt. There's mass unemployment, and what we're saying is we're going to be a global noise. We, the next generation, the youth and youth part of the working class, as our future is being destroyed, we're not going to silently sit back and let them destroy our future. We're going to be loud, we're going to be confrontational, and we're going to demand that this stop. Austerity is a crime against the people. These cuts are a crime against us, and we're going to demonstrate, we're going to be loud, and we're going to oppose it.
Now, in the U.S., where you are, America has not seen austerity cuts as of yet. But in Europe, this is precisely what the global noise rallies were aimed against. Is this merely a show of support for Europe, or is there, say, a message in the demonstrations for the U.S. presidential candidates?
Well, there is plenty of austerity going on in the United States. Food stamps, a program that millions of people in the U.S. depend on so they can have food, is being cut. College prices are going up. Now, they have kind of halted it because they're planning after the elections to really have austerity. All the major cuts are going to happen after the elections. But even in these latest debates, you see, Romney and Ryan, Obama and Biden, they're all debating about how much to cut. Essentially, the terms is, how responsibly can we get rid of Social Security, and how responsibly can we do it? It is austerity. It's a global austerity because, Lenin spoke of in his book Imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism. He talked about how the banks become kind of the center of capitalism as in its monopoly and its monopoly stage. And right now there's a revolt against the banks. And, instead of the people having to take all these cuts, why do they simply, stop the cuts to the banks? The governments all over the United States have the ability to do that. They could pass legislation saying that the banks' payments have to be delayed. But instead we keep paying back the banks for these loans that they've taken from the government, and programs that people depend on to survive are being cut. In a time of mass unemployment, millions of youth have great anger about what's going on right now, and it's exploding into a global anti-capitalist rebellion, and it's here in the U.S. The phrase, "we are the 99%," represented what millions of people understand, which is that a small elite, bankers, capitalists, they own the world, and the rest of us just get to live in it. Well, it's time that we're heard, and we're a global noise, and we're going to rise up and demand a change in that situation.
And really briefly, you mentioned, the presidential politics of it all. In the U.S., the Obama administration criticized for the bailout, while Republicans are criticized for wanting more austerity. What do you think that perfect balance should be there in the States?
I think whoever wins this election, it's very clear that after the election's over, they're going to begin, an extreme amount of mass austerity, and the terms of the debate is sickening. The terms of the debate is essentially how much to cut. Some people say, we should cut everything, and others say, no, we should just cut a little bit. No, the people do not have to pay for a crisis the bankers created. But that message is not part of the discourse in this country right now. The discourse is limited to, are you for one form of cutting and one form of cutbacks, or are you for another form? And that's frightening, and that's why the Occupy movement came in with, we are the 99%, or as the labor movement and progressive forces have said for a long time, class against class. It's not about Republicans and Democrats. It's about the bankers versus the people. It's about the people who sell their labor to survive versus those who own the world.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but we appreciate your thoughts on this subject. Caleb Maupin from the International Action Center, thank you very much for being with us.
And thank you.